The Florida Gators got RJ Moten as a commit, a legacy commit, and we're going to talk about that here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, a live one though, because of course, guess what just happened? RJ Moten, the Florida Gators got a commit, and it was a doozy there because RJ Moten is someone who, first of all, I talked about on today's episode of Locked On Gators. I did not expect it to happen this soon, but it kind of was expected here. But again, I'll take what I can get. RJ Moten, like I mentioned on today's show, his dad was Ronald Moten, played linebacker for the Florida Gators in the 80s. And yeah, RJ Moten just committed on the last day of his visit, fresh off the visit, became a Florida Gator. This was a visit that started on Sunday, April 30th, went until today. And yes, the shades are on because he did commit. And I'm very excited for this. Like I've spoken about this. I spoke about this on today's show where I was saying, hey, RJ Moten, his skill set is fantastic. Yesterday, I tweeted the video of his interception against Maryland where he just looked and it was just a beautiful, beautiful play. He tipped it to himself. Also, I wasn't even the one that noticed it, but someone did point out to me that the receiver he was covering on that play, none other than Jacob Copeland. So he made a great play against a former Florida Gator playing in the Big Ten. And then, yeah, he's just doing great things in this secondary. Will hopefully continue to do great things in this secondary because I do think that he steps in as an immediate starter. I just think he's that kind of player. And there we go. Yeah, I'm just saying, you're live. Saw you in the Discord, Locked On Gators Discord. The link's in the description below, or at least I hope it is. I'm pretty sure I put it in there, but the link should be in the description below. If not, I'll post a link in a little bit. But yeah, this is a huge ad for the Florida Gators. There's no other way around it. Like this is a transfer portal period that was kind of quiet beforehand and kind of blew up a little bit, and now hopefully. And sorry, my phone is blowing up about RJ Moten. But this is a big ad for the Florida Gators. It was a transfer portal period that is kind of slow. There wasn't a ton of activity. There wasn't really much noise going on. Like I said it on my show before, I was told by one recruit that Florida is kind of being like, hey, be hush hush when we're talking to you in the portal. So that's one of the reasons that you haven't heard a ton of buzz until this week when it was like, oh, like Florida's got RJ Moten on campus. They're getting multiple other players on campus this week. This was a planned thing. So don't stress about how much noise you're hearing here. But when we're talking about RJ Moten and what he brings to the table, this is going to be quick, by the way. But what RJ Moten brings to the table, solid height, 6 feet tall. Okay length, not great. You'd prefer it be bigger, but obviously you can't control how long someone's arms are. That's just not a thing you can really do. But he's got fantastic instincts, puts himself in position to make plays on a ball where, yeah, even if he doesn't come away with the pick, even if he doesn't make an insane play, he puts himself in position to make that play. He gets himself in there. What's up, Josh Gardner? The chef is in here all the way from Spain. What's good, big dog? But RJ Moten steps in as an immediate starter in this secondary. He's immediately the best safety you have on this team. He's a team leader. He's a vocal leader. That's all I've heard from the Michigan people I reached out to is he's a great leader. We didn't want to see him leave. Like we were hoping he'd be back. We were hoping he'd be starting in the secondary this year. Not what happened. And also my favorite thing about RJ Moten, one of my favorite things about RJ Moten, quick trigger. Like I mentioned earlier today on this morning's episode of Locked On Gators, RJ Moten does something that I love seeing in a DB with that quick trigger to fire down. He sees the ball leave the quarterback's hands, he's going after whoever that ball is intended to. He sees the quarterback tuck and run, he's going after that quarterback. Sure, over pursues a little bit, over commits a little bit, but yeah, great plays made. And look, nobody's perfect, right? Nobody's perfect, but RJ Moten is one hell of a football player, and I am incredibly excited to have him in Gainesville. Like, this is one that is very well worth the wait. Adding in a player like RJ Moten from the Michigan Wolverines defense that was just incredible. It was truly, truly great. Whether you're talking about under Mike McDonald in 2021 or Jesse Minter in 2022, Michigan defense was great. A lot of it was on the back end. RJ Moten was a big part of that. So we're talking about an immediate starter. And let's say hypothetically he doesn't start. He's easily the first safety off the bench, right? He won't be. He's going to be starting. But just a first starter or an immediate starter that can come into this defense and improve it with a ton of experience. I'm going off the top of my head here because I don't have the numbers in front of me like I did yesterday. But I think it was like 925 snaps for RJ Moten in 2022 and 2021 combined. And last year, I think it was Kamari Wilson played like 311 snaps. And I believe it was Miguel Mitchell played 107 snaps for 418 combined. So not even close to what RJ Moten's experienced. So he brings in that experience immediately. You've got an experienced starter in the secondary at safety for a defense that is going to ask their safeties to play deep over top. And we're going to talk about exactly how RJ Moten fits into this defense because he is like a glove. But first, today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It's America's #1 sportsbook, and don't miss out. Like, new customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win, but it will. Trust me, beginner's luck is a thing. My first bet ever was UMBC upsetting Virginia. So your first bet's going to hit. This is the first time the 16 ever upset the 1. So your first bet's going to hit. Don't worry about that. Don't miss your chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. And now we're wrapping this up. But before we do, please do like, subscribe, comment, review, join the Locked On Gators Discord. The link's in the description below. Leave a comment in the section if you want to. But we are quickly talking about how this defense is a good fit for RJ Moten because it's the best fit. RJ Moten, like I mentioned, comes from Mike McDonald in 2021, who's now with the Baltimore Ravens, and comes from Jesse Minter in 2022, who's still with Michigan and a Royals finalist. So you're looking at two defenses that back-to-back years, cover 3 was their most played coverage. He's coming to a defense, RJ Moten is coming to a defense, where last year, as in Austin Armstrong with the Florida Gators, last year, the #1 coverage played was cover 3. Okay. This year with the Florida Gators, the #1 coverage played is probably going to be cover 3. RJ Moten steps in right away. And I know that people want to label him as, a box safety. That's really not. That's not like you're putting him in a box, and he's versatile enough where he doesn't need to be in a box or in the box, but you can use him in multiple ways. You can play him as your deep safety. He's got plenty of experience doing that. You could play him as your box safety. He's got experience doing that. I'm not saying you can't play him there, but don't box him in. You could play him at your star if you want, really. Like, he can do that easily. So I think when you're looking at RJ Moten, you're bringing in a guy who could start at 3 of your 11 spots on defense, 3 of your 5 spots in the secondary, and can do it at a high level immediately. I see in the comments, defense will be much improved this year. Theodore Williams, it absolutely will. And Josh Garner, the chef over here, said, will he be a good college player, not a better pro like other unnamed safeties? Yeah, he will be, because he's already a good college football player. This isn't someone where maybe he'll become a guy. RJ Moten is a good college football player. He is a good safety. Like, will he get better in the pros? Probably. But hey, I don't care what he's going to do in the pros. I care what he's going to do in Gainesville for this year. And I'm not fully certain about his eligibility. He might have a second year. because his first year was the COVID year, so I'm not fully sure how that all worked out. But RJ Moten's here for at least a year to be a starter. And again, very similar defense to Austin Armstrong that he ran in Michigan, or that RJ Moten ran in Michigan. Because you've got a guy who's used to 2 high shells, which Michigan does a ton. That's modern football. That's modern defense. Get over it if you don't like it. 2 high shells, and then 1 safety rotates up or down. That's fine. RJ Moten can do that. He's proven he can do that. So he's coming from a 2 high defense that's going to rotate frequently. Check. He's coming from a defense that's going to run a lot of cover 3 and a lot of cover 1. Check. He can do that. I will say my biggest concern for him is, oh, sorry, Sammy. I got you, Sammy. I got you, Sammy. You like the shades? I got you, Sammy. Don't worry about that for a single solitary second. I'll throw him back on for you. But RJ Moten can step in right away. My biggest concern for him genuinely is his length. 6 feet tall is fine. But, Trey Dean was longer than his height. Clearly, he was a very long athlete. RJ Moten does not look like he's a very long athlete, which means for me, when you match him up against a tight end, because cover 1's going to be something that this defense plays, when you match him up against a tight end, he's going to be very undersized. So I'm thinking RJ Moten, do you use him as, when he's the guy in man, he's on a slot receiver, or he's on a running back, or is he just being undersized against the tight end unless he's going up against another shorter tight end like Keon Zipperer, who's like 6'1", really. And so or do you make him the deep man? Obviously, he's going to do both, but I'm curious to see how you match him up in coverage. Gator Nation, here we go, baby. Here we go. Said definitely a good safety. Michigan just has a deep, he left because he wanted a bigger role. He's still going to get on the field in Michigan. Yeah, no, this is not a situation where it's like, oh, we're taking a castaway here from Michigan. This isn't that. We're not taking a castaway. We're not taking leftovers. We're taking someone who played a lot of snaps in Michigan last year, was going to play a lot of snaps in Michigan this year, but is going to play more in Gainesville this year, and is a great scheme fit. Like I mentioned, he's a legacy kid. This is a fantastic ad any way you look at it. And so thank you all. Top 30 defense this year, maybe, I don't know. It genuinely depends on how the rest of the portal shakes out. I know that they're pushing for Amos from Louisiana, but thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Brandon Olson. I love that I get to do this. Like, this being my job, that I get to go live at 1:15 p.m. on a Tuesday is insane to me. But thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, review, join the Locked On Gators Discord. The link's in the description below. If it's not, it's in every other video. So it's fine. But thank you so much. We will still have an episode coming out tomorrow morning, so don't fret about that. But thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, go Gators.